Hey guys, Brittleman945 here. Welcome back to another video. Welcome to a tier list update, which I have not done this tier list for a very long time, and I decided it was finally time to update it. Um, that is One Piece art. Um, this has everything up to Elbaf or Egghead. Elbaf is not on here, which is fine. Elbaf isn't finished yet. Um, However, I will give my opinion on Elbaf at the end of this video. Um, I wanted to do this ranking because some of my opinions have actually changed a little bit because of the live action. Um, so yeah, uh, we are going to rank these art. Um, Romance Dawn, pretty solid B tier. I mean, it's like the thing that starts the story off, and it's good because of that, but also like not that much more, and that's perfectly fine. Um, uh, Orange Town, I'll put that in C tier. I really like the story of Shushu Cho, how the hell you pronounce it? That's that's like one of the best um or that is the best thing about this arc by far. Buggy's fun, but I don't know. I don't feel like this arc has as much momentum as something like Romance Dawn for a beginner One Piece arc. And I'm going to say the same thing about Syrup Village. That's also in C tier, and honestly, um, the more I think back on it, the mostly it's because Kuro was quite a lackluster villain, in my opinion. Um, I thought that everything with Usopp's introduction was honestly great. Um, However, just Taro being a honestly really lame villain kind of brings it down for me. I used to have it in D tier, I think, but I'm putting it in C um currently. Uh let's see. Is this Baratier? I think yes, this is Baratier. Okay. Baratier goes in the first A tier. Um, this, in my opinion, is the best Straw Hat introductory arc by far. Because the way that Sanji is introduced and his subsequent backstory is all fantastic. I think that Don Krieg is actually a really entertaining villain. I like the idea of him just using a bunch of weapons and also the introduction of Mihawk and the moment that Zoro gets was absolutely peak. Um I would say that like Baratier was the arc that really got me hooked on One Piece. We're going to see the arc that made me truly fall in love with it later. But this one really got me hooked on One Piece. And Arlong Park being a strong follow up certainly helps. Though I do think that um Baratier is slightly better because I think that it's got slightly tighter pacing than Arlong Park. Um but like Arlong is a Arlong is without a doubt the best villain in the East Blue, like not even close. Um and his relationship with Nami and Nami's backstory, all of that is fantastic. There have been people that have talked about the positives of that way better than I could ever dream of trying to do. Um, uh, and yeah, I just like Baratier a little bit better because I think it's a little bit better paced. But I do still really like Arlong Park, though I probably wouldn't rate it in S tier as I've seen many tier lists do. Okay, Logtown. Logtown is Logtown is tricky because I think this is one of these arcs that the live action actually did well. Um, there are several examples of this to me. Um, I really like a lot of the individual crew moments that happen in Logtown. Um, but it does sort of feel like a lot of setup. I'm gonna put it in B tier behind Romance Dawn still. Reverse Mountain. Hmm. This is another one where my opinion is improved because of the live action. I would say, hmm, B or C. It's not A tier, definitely not. Um, yeah, F it. I'm gonna lean more on the higher side of the ranking this time around. Reverse Mountain can go in D tier. Uh, what was this called? Whiskey Peak. That's right. So Whiskey Peak, and Little Garden subsequently are both arcs that my opinion was significantly improved on, because of the live action, and I'm gonna put Whiskey Peak above Logtown because I just found it to be more fun. Um, and then Little Garden, I am going to put behind Reverse Mountain. Uh, it wasn't as elevated for me, but it was still a fun arc. Um, uh, Drum Island takes the new highest spot in A tier. Because I did say that Sanji had the best introductory arc for a Straw Hat, but I should have specified that that was in the East Blue because Chopper's is just better. His relationship with Look is more emotionally impactful. He has a sadder and just straight up better backstory to me. um, Even though Wapple is not nearly as entertaining of a villain as Don Krieg, in fact, he's quite annoying. He's definitely the thing that brings down this arc more than anything. I think the emotional highs of Drum Island uh, overcome it by a fair bit. Um, so okay, Alabasta is my first S tier. And this is likely going to stay up in the top five, maybe even top three. favorite arcs in One Piece for me. Um, if not the top three, then definitely the top five because um the last time I rewatched this about a year and a half ago, um Luffy versus Crocodile is easily the best Luffy fight, in my opinion, in all of One Piece because of the way that it feels like Luffy needs to grow and the fact that he loses twice in a row. It just makes the final confrontation so much more satisfying. I love the kingdom of Alabasta and the issues going on within it and how this arc feels like such an upgrade in scale from anything up to that point in the story. Um and Vivi's character is also absolutely just incredible. Um all the other Straw Hat fights are very good and very entertaining. I'm very excited to see them being adapted into the live action properly, which I forget when season three is supposed to come out. I think it's next year. Oh yeah, it has to be next year. Um, so yeah, I absolutely fucking love Alabasta. I'm so excited for it to be adapted into live action. Um, okay, Jaya. This is another A tier for me because, uh, purely because episode 151 hard carries this quite short arc. Like, sure, it's fun to see Bellamy punched in the face. Um, and Mont Blanc Cricket getting like his memoriam back and like learning some things about the Mont Blanc family initially before it's probably explored in Skypiea. Um, it's good setup for Skypiea, but episode 151 carries so hard it's kind of ridiculous. Episode 151 of One Piece is one of my favorite One Piece episodes of all time. And um to a lot of people this might seem just like an extremely random inclusion, but this episode singularly introduces so many different things. Number one, it introduces Whitebeard, who is my favorite One Piece character of all time, though that's not because of his introduction here. But, it's a very important character, so, he's introduced here. Um, we also get to see Marie Joie for the first time. Um, along with the introduction of both Doflamingo and Kuma. Also, the introduction of the Blackbeard pirates is here. I don't think this episode has the famous scene with Blackbeard saying, "Our dreams of pirates never end." I don't think it's in this episode, but Um, I mean, I think that's enough of a freaking reputation for one episode alone, and it like kind of hard carries this arc for me, because otherwise it would probably be in, I don't know, C tier, maybe. Um, uh, yes, okay. Now we have Skypiea. Skypiea. Golly, I have not thought about Skype in a long time. I think, Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna stick it in A. I'm gonna move it above Jaya, but not above Arlong Park. Um, I think that Enel is a very entertaining villain and definitely one of the better ones. And the more that I think about Skypiea in retrospect, which admittedly is not much, but I think about Enel like kind of as one of the biggest things I think about from Skypiea as an arc because he was a ridiculously entertaining villain, and I am probably one of the biggest hypers of Enel returning to the story coat because I think that it would be so immensely cool and it's something that I really, really want to happen. Um the Nolan and Calgara flashback is one of the most, if not the most underrated flashbacks in all of One Piece to me because it plays off the build up that Nolan's reputation from cricket talking about his past has gotten so well, and it just shows how completely wrong that was. And also, um, the whole idea and theming behind Skypiea will always make it one of my favorite, like, One Piece islands in terms of the design and theme of the location. Um, and yeah, I think that Skype is honestly great and like um there it feels like every single new chapter there's some new thing that One Piece theorists are linking back that was foreshadowed from Skypiea. Which, you know, I honestly the fact that like this one arc alone has so much foreshadowing is kind of crazy. Um, but it also doesn't necessarily affect my score of it that much. But I do really like and respect Skypiea as an arc. Long Ring Longland is the worst One Piece arc by far. It is boring. Foxy is a terrible character. And the only slightly redeemable thing about it, Kuzan's introduction, is um is uh, uh is kind of cool, but it's only one episode's worth, and it feels like there could have been so much cut from it. Really, like I feel like him being introduced could have been a part on the way to Water 7 without really needing the inclusion of this complete sack of shit Foxy. Um, now, goes without saying, Water 7 is obviously an S tier, although I don't like it as much as Alabasta. Still, obviously, absolutely fucking masterpiece of an arc. Um, Frankie's introduction is fantastic. I love the journey that his character goes on throughout the entire series. Luffy versus Usopp is one of the best and most emotionally tense, nail-biting moments and confrontations in all of pre-time skip. Honestly, just master class work done with both of their characters in that confrontation. Um, what else was there with Water 7? There was the introduction of CP9 and the twist that they were the Galley Law members, which I still believe is like up there with the best plot twists in One Piece because when I first watched One Piece, I was spoiled on a lot of stuff, mainly toward the latter half of it, but like I was not spoiled on that because I didn't know much about One Piece at the time, and like I I think that might have been the most shocked I ever was by twist in One Piece like that. Because it was just so completely counterintuitive to what I was thinking at the time that it just blew my mind completely. Also, I absolutely love the design of Water 7. It's another one of my favorite designed One Piece islands. I think it just looks so cool. Um, Annie Swabby, without question, another S tier. Um, I didn't mention earlier, Alabasta was the arc that I was referring to that made me fall in love with One Piece. But I mention that now specifically because Enies Lobby was the one that made me like rated a full on 10 out of 10 score wise. Um because Robin's backstory and her entire character development in this arc is just absolutely beautiful. There are so many great Straw Hat fights in this arc. Um, Zoro versus Kaku probably being my um, personal favorite. Um, although Rob Lucci versus Luffy does come close to that for me. Um, and Rob Lucci is a really interesting character. His backstory in particular, I don't feel like gets enough attention generally. Because it's really interesting how that forms the basis of his character. Um, and uh, once again, I mean, Usopp's character development continues amazingly, and also gives us the best gag in One Piece history, in my opinion, which is the Sniper Thing, Sniper King theme song, which to this day, the first time I saw that is still some of the hardest I've ever laughed in my entire life. That song is absolute fucking cinema. Um, Spandam is a really hateable bastard, and he makes for a good antagonistic role in that way, but I consider Lucci to be the true villain of any Lobby, and I think that he does a very good job of being this physical foil to Luffy, who has to demonstrate his new powers of Gear 2 and Gear 3, which are both awesome, along with Frankie's continued development is also great. Um, so yeah, any Lobby is peak. Although that should be kind of obvious. What may not be as obviously peak to some people that just have no reading comprehension is post any Lobby, which is easily the best of any of these like short post arc lore dump spans of story because not only is Garp introduced as Luffy's grandpa here, we also get the introduction in its entirety of um the new world as a concept, which is just completely crazy. Um uh We learned that Dragon is Luffy's dad and also the head of the revolutionaries and the most wanted criminal in the world. And granted, that reputation hasn't lived up to shit, but hey, it was still awesome when it happened in this arc. We had the incredible confrontation between um, Shanks and Whitebeard. That was insanely cool. But what was even cooler than that, in my opinion, is Ace versus Blackbeard, which, in my opinion, is easily the most underrated fight in all of One Piece, and my second favorite, only behind Zoro versus King and Wano. This arc, it's honestly ridiculous how much stuff it actually introduced for the future of the story, especially post time skip. And for that is an easy S tier for me. Okay. Thriller Bar. Thriller Park is another one I haven't thought about in a long time. Um, I've had it in B tier before. I wonder if I want to stick to that this time. I'll be honest, like, Thriller Bark isn't one of the arcs that I really tend to think of a lot in retrospect. Um, I I don't think Gecko Moria is that great of a villain. Um, I think I'm gonna leave it there. I don't think Gecko Moria is that great of a villain. I have more appreciation for him as a character after like what has been revealed through cover stories about his um like story in Wano and how he fought Kaido and stuff like that and how more of that was revealed. Um but it doesn't exactly make me like him better as a villain within the arc itself. I kind of thought that he was a little bit annoying at certain points, and there definitely felt like a lot of points in this arc where there was needless amounts of uh, time wasting and Sanji's character, I think, really takes a bit of a downgrade in this arc with the whole like wanting the clear fruit to spy on women. That's just poor writing choice. But it is kind of hard saved by the Zoro moment and Uma getting his first proper screen time, which is just completely awesome. Uh, um, and the way that things with his character are foreshadowed in this arc, uh, which are like finally continued upon in Egghead is also really good. I do have to give some credit for that, but I think like Thriller Bark will always just be this eternal mixed bag to me. Um, so that's why it's in C tier for me. Amazon Lily, I oh wait, this isn't Amazon Lily. This is Sabaody. Um, so Sabaody used to be an S tier for me, and I need to think about whether I would still rank it in S tier now. Uh, okay. Had to pause, so I got some water. Now, do I still think that Sabaody Archipelago is an F tier. I might change this later. For now, it's replacing Drum Island at the very top of A. There's so much good things that this arc does. Introducing my goat Rayleigh, introducing all the supernovas, introducing my other goat Kizaru, the introduction of the celestial dragons, which becomes a very important plot point in One Piece. Um, there is the Duval gag, which is my second favorite in One Piece behind the Soul King theme song. That also had me dying for minutes on end. I loved that gag. Um, uh, oh, yeah. And then, of course, there's the separation moment. Hmm. Yeah, yeah. I think remembering every time I remember the separation moment, it it makes me want to move Thaba Odi even higher. And in fact, I'm gonna move it above Water 7 because I feel like what this arc manages to accomplish in quite a short amount of time, um, so let me just use this test. So how many episodes is Saba OD? It's 21 episodes, which is honestly longer than I remembered, and yet it's like I feel like it accomplishes more in a shorter amount of time, really, and just that one moment of separation is still in my top five favorite One Piece moments, probably, I would say. Um, it was probably the moment in One Piece, one of two moments that got me the closest to actually crying, which is a feat because I don't really cry at anything. I'm not saying that to make myself sound like a macho bad alpha male and never cries at anything. I just, I just generally don't really cry at his immediate. I don't know. Maybe I should make a discussion video about that. But um, uh, maybe times I almost cried at media would be an interesting video. Let me know in the comments if you want to see that. But anyway, uh, as a little bit of a spoiler for that potential video, this moment in One Piece is one of those. Um, that separation moment is just so powerful, and it to me it truly is the signifier of even though it's not that at that point in terms of episode count, really, that to me is truly the signifier of the halfway point in the story, because um of the way that it just signifies complete and utter failure uh for Luffy, and the subsequent solo journey that he goes on over the next um uh three arcs is just incredible, and it is only possible with that incredible separation moment. Is that moment maybe hard carrying a little bit? Possibly yes, but I don't care. It's my goddamn tier list. So I say that Silent Odie is better than Water 7. Amazon Lily, I'm going to put in C tier. Um, Even though this arc is very short, um, I like Boa as a character now, but for me, it's a similar situation to Gecko Moria, where I wasn't a huge fan of her character at the time during the arc, and I thought that a lot of the humor was just weird and not very funny. Um, so as a result, I am Um, it's not as low as I used to rank it. I used to put it in D tier alongside Longland, but it really isn't that bad. But it's also like it's just not an arc I'm a big fan of for several reasons. Um, okay, Impel Down. This is a high A. I'm putting it between um uh Oh, yeah, it's better than Baradier. I'm putting it between Drum Island and Baradier because this arc is just a lot of your fun in terms of the prison escape and the crazy antics and the tons of crazy characters and crazy alliances that are both introduced in this arc and the crazy alliances that end up happening, like Buggy, Luffy, and Mister Three, and Crocodile and Ivankov and Inazuma, who are both introduced in this arc. Um, Magellan is a very funny and yet somehow also intimidating antagonist. I think that balance is uh, struck really well. And of course, Von Clay the Goat has an amazing sacrifice moment. He doesn't actually die, but um, it is still a sacrifice because he stays behind in order to let Luffy and the rest of his allies go to Marineford. Um, Also, Jinbei's introduced in this arc, and he's great too. This arc is just fun. Now, still to this day, my favorite One Piece arc and one of my favorite arcs in anime is Marineford. Um, I've talked about this arc so many times on this channel that I feel like I would be um fruitlessly repeating myself if I tried to summarize a lot of the points as to why I love this arc. I think the fact that I say it's my favorite One Piece arc is probably enough evidence as to why I like it realistically. Um, Post war, I am going to put that over Drum Island at the top of A. Because this is another arc which has great lore dump. The Ace Sabo Luffy backstory is very, very good. Um, Luffy's breakdown moments and Jinbei helping him are also great. Um, and yeah, I just think that this arc is very well done. How long are we at? 40 minutes. Okay. Return to Sabaody is going at the top of B, because this is a fun introductory arc for the Straw Hats to flex their abilities, um, and Luffy being able to defeat the Pacific still holds a lot of significance for his character considering what happened the last time he was on Sabaody. Um, and yeah, this is just a fun arc. I like it. And actually, I'm gonna put it behind Romance Dawn. I think, yeah. What is going above both of those? Not quite to the A tier, but um, an arc that I do think is truly great is Fishman Island. Um, Probably the most underrated One Piece arc in my opinion because or overhated, I guess is a better word for it. Um, Mainly just because of the themes of it, but also this arc is basically an extension of Return to Sabaody. It's essentially a whole arc where the Straw Hats are able to completely flex their new levels of strength and the moments between Nami and Jinbei about Arlong and also Luffy and Jinbei's conversations about being a hero versus a pirate are all absolute gems, and the way that Hody Jones actually just reflects just being an absolute true hater down to the core, and that's the only motivation for him is um there's something that's just quite compelling about that and very well done. And also, it's just kind of funny, how much of a hater for the love of the game he actually is. Um, I guess I should say for the hate of the game. Ha ha. But okay. Punk Hazard. This is another one of those arcs I haven't thought about in a long time. Not exactly one that I tend to go back and think about much. Um, Law has some cool moments. Caesar Clown is pretty funny. Um, Smoker does some cool stuff before getting butt hockey by Dofi. Um, Butt hockey top one in the verse. Uh, I'm trying to think that there the, there really was not a lot that was um particularly memorable about Punk Hazard. I'm gonna put it in between Syrup Village and Amazon Lily. I think it's not a bad arc, but it's also just not that memorable, really. Like Momonosuke's and Kinemon are introduced. They're fun, but I think they have better moments in Dressrosa and such, which is coming up. Um, and like, yeah, the plan to set up Wano comes, but again, I think that's better done in the next arc here, Dressrosa. So this arc is um fitted on the most in for the bad pacing. And even though I am not nearly as harsh on the general anime pacing as a lot of people, the main area where I think that the pacing for this arc sucks absolute dog water is in the end because there was absolutely no need for an extra 15 episodes after Luffy finally defeats Doflamingo. Just absolutely no need. That could have been cut down by such a large amount. Um, um, that being said, in my opinion, Doflamingo is the best One Piece villain by far. He, um, he does so much to elevate this arc between the backstory of Dressrosa and the way that Dofi manipulated everything. He is a true top tier class villain in my opinion. Um, and a bunch of the other side characters are really good, like Rebecca and and Kyrus. I'm a big fan of both of their characters. They're both great. Um, Fujitori's introduction is also really cool, and the way that that sets up the idea of the warlords being abolished is very well done to me. Um, Also, we find out my goat Sabo is still alive. Um, there's a lot of things to really like about this. The aesthetic and design of Dressrosa is beautiful. It's another one of my favorite designed islands. Um, there is a lot to like about this art. I just don't know if it's S tier worthy. Because I used to compare it with Saba Odi, but the thing that I think pulls Dressrosa back from being an S tier, unlike Saba Odi, is the fact that there isn't like that one moment that I can think of that like is able to elevate it. But I will put it at an easy top of A tier position. Um, okay. So, no is really hard to evaluate for me because it's one of those ones that I really have not, that I really have like thought about the least, in terms of arcs overall. But man, I loved Zoe when I watched it. It was like the build up to the Rizo is safe moment is just absolutely brilliant. It's like some of the best build up to that point in One Piece, I think. Um and like the way that there are so many different little threads set up in Zoe. It makes it like a very um important arc. I think reasonably here, um I think it can go in A tier reasonably. I think I would probably put it in between Impel Down and Baratier. I think that feels like a good spot. I think that it's a really, really great arc, but not to the level of S tier, in my opinion. Not anymore. Um, uh, is this? Ah, okay. This is Reverie. Um, if I put Gaia in A tier for one episode carrying heavy lore dumps, I think I have to do the same with the Reverie. Um, but it does not go higher than Skypiea. It remains right there. Okay. Whole Cake Island. This is always one that I've had some conflicting opinions on because I feel like there is so much needless time wasted in the like first third of this arc that could have been so majorly cut down. And in general, I don't think the pacing of this arc is like people harp on Dressrosa pacing a lot. If anything, I think the pacing overall of Whole Cake is probably worse. Um, like it's almost as long, uh, um, as Dressrosa is, and I really, I feel like the pacing in this arc is generally much worse, but in particular in the first third, there's just a lot of stuff that feels like insane filler. But then we get to Sanji's character, and everything with Sanji's character is absolutely fucking S tier. The moment where he reunites with Luffy is the second moment I was talking about, which came the closest to me crying at One Piece. And it's still in my top 10, not quite top 5, I don't think, but it's still probably in my top 10 One Piece moments of all time. Because it's such a beautiful moment. And then like we get to the like latter third of the arc, which is just absolute chaos the entire time. It's quite entertaining. It was cool to see Big Mom's backstory as like foreshadowing for a bunch of things in Elbaf, including like the introduction, or I guess hearing Loki's name for the first time. Um, and um, there's like just a bunch of shit going on. Ignore that. That's my Outlook email notification. Uh, and we also have like um Louis versus Katakuri. I guess I should talk about that. I think it's a decent fight, but like kind of overrated just because it's like it's another example of Whole Cake having pretty damn bad pacing to me. Um, and I think that's ultimately what this comes down to, and that's why I can't um put Whole Cake higher than the top of B. But I do still like Whole Cake. I think it's got good elements, but it's really brought down by a lot of things that feel like filler and a lot of pacing issues. Now, despite the fact that I'm pretty sure that Wano is over twice as long, um, as Whole Cake is, I think that it is significantly better paced throughout the entirety of the arc, between acts one, two, and three. Um, are there some parts at the Battle of Onigashima that feel like they drag? Sure. But the entire story of the land of Wano, the incredible like moment with uh Yasui, I'm pretty sure that was his name, at like the end of Act Two, and in like Tomo, and the way that affects her character was just fantastic. There's so many awesome like individual Straw Hat moments, like Ifrit Jambe, Zoro gaining Conqueror's Haki, and my favorite One Piece fight, which is him versus King. There's Luffy versus Kaido in Gear 5, which is all awesome as well. Um, I think, like, for the amount of stuff that it has, like, the sheer amount of amazing moments in it, I think it is going in S tier, but at the very bottom. Um, and last but cannot possibly be least, we have Egghead, which currently is my second favorite arc in all of One Piece. Um, the pacing on this arc is absolutely immaculate. There are so many incredible characters that are expanded upon in this arc, like Kizaru. Kizaru entered my top 10 One Piece characters because of this arc. There is so much depth added to him as a character, and you understand so much more of his nature. And I mean, of course, we cannot talk about Egghead without mentioning Kuma, which has who has my second favorite flashback in all of One Piece behind the God Valley flashback in Elbaf. Um, and Kuma's is now in my top 10 One Piece characters as well. Just like Odin's flashback made him one of my top 10 One Piece characters. Kuma did the same thing. Uh, the sort of cutaways between like like events that are happening in the rest of the One Piece world versus the significant things that are happening on Heghead, it feels like such a perfect balance of these things um and Vegapunk as a character had immaculate build up and the build up was paid off so well. He's such an immensely interesting character, and like the way that he reveals the whole world is fucking sinking is crazy. And like we get to see the reveal of the Gorsei's actual forms, which was just insane. And then like the ancient robot came alive again. There was so much chaos in the fighting, and yet at the same time, it never felt like overwhelming, which is just incredible to me. It felt like there was smooth progression the entire time. Um, and like, if I didn't have intense Marineford bias, then this would probably overtake. But I think that this is the closest that an arc will probably ever get, unless one of the final arcs becomes my new favorite, to overtaking Marineford currently, because I feel like Egghead. I've heard a lot of people say Egghead is like the newer version of Marineford, and I definitely have to agree with that because there are so many similarities that make both of the arcs absolutely peak. I don't agree with people that say Egghead is better just because I like Marineford better, but I agree with like the logic that they use with comparing the two arcs and their similarities. Um, and yeah, that completes the actual proper tier list. Um, I'm not going to talk about Elbaf right now. I changed my mind. I'm going to make a dedicated video when the arc is concluded because I feel like it is the most fair. But as of now, without like any explanation to my reasoning at all, I would place Elbath probably between Water 7 and Host Annie's Lobby. I think that feels like a good spot for it at the moment. But yeah, that is my updated One Piece arcs tier list. I have definitely had some opinion changes since I made the last list. And yeah, Let me know what you think of my tier list. Let me know your favorite One Piece arcs in the comments below, and I will see you later. Bye bye.